Now you listen to me. I don't want any plastics. I don't want any ground floors. And I don't want to get married to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do. And you
Yeah, why not? I saw in that video though, she was saying like, because we're gonna have to like sync up the audio and the video. She said, she's like clap in the video, so then when you're editing, you can like line up the clap on the screen with the clap in the audio, and then your audio will be matched up.
That is very smart.
Right? That was pretty
Yeah.
smart.
That's.
Ready?
Are we both doing it? Or
I'll do it.
Oh yeah, you got it. There it is.
There we go.
Are you recording right now?
Yeah.
The phone's going?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Has it been going?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Nice.
You didn't even know.
I didn't even know.
I didn't even know.
Yeah. Wait, so what were we just talking about? Oh, yeah. Yeah, even with, like, I mean, as stupid as it is, like the stream for, like, me doing the videos
Yeah.
on the YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
like, I remember being nervous just posting that, like, and it's just stupid, like, it's just, me and my brother's, like, being dumb, like, saying
Yeah.
stupid stuff, and you can't even see me, there's no camera, but it's that fear of, like, dang, like, you're putting yourself
Yes.
out there, and you're putting yourself out there forever, potentially,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, the internet, when something is up on the internet, like, it's out there, you know, and
Yeah.
for everyone to see. So, yeah.
Well, I thought we'd just do this first one as a way to show people and explain like what is not only the second floor experience that we've discovered or we've like verbalized, but what is like, where did this all start? That's kind of where I want to like give people the foundation for, because when I see like second floor experience, my first thought would be, what is that? And so I think it's be good for our first episode to be, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you want to go first? You want me to
No, go ahead. You can go first if you want.
I mean, technically, like, where it started, I mean, second floor experience is a lot of things, kind of, for us.
Yeah.
But
like where did, okay, so
it started with, I mean, like, basically, second floor started with our hall.
Mhm.
Like, it was, we both went to SAGU, right? And we happened to live on second floor of Bridges, which was our dorm. And I don't know if you knew this, but it was actually called I Am Second. Did you know that?
Mm-mm. Oh, I knew like I Am Second, but I didn't know that was first.
Yeah. So Guy, who was our RA before, like, he called each floor had, you know, it was first, second, third, fourth, but each RA would have like a name for their like group of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Guy, it was I Am Second for the longest time. And we all had like, he would get us all I Am Second wristbands. Yeah. But then over time it just like became second floor. Cause it's just whatever. It was easier to call it that, I guess. But yeah, so second floor was it was the hall that we lived on, and it went by a few other names over time. Some called it a cult, or
Yes, I did.
what else? The Resistance, or a joke. A lot of stuff, but yeah, it was just a group of guys at school living life together.
Just living lives together, man.
But that's second floor, like, in its most basic description. Like, truly, for me, I think I would say second floor, like, that time of us all living together was probably to to me, it's like the closest thing to like the Acts church that I've experienced in my life, I think.
Really?
I think so. Like when you talk about the people of God and like when Acts talks about them, like, you know, after they were growing in numbers and they're just like, you know, sharing everything with one another, like they're with each other all the time, like taking care of one another and like, you know, reading scripture, studying the word together, like to me that was, I mean, that it was literally every day, like every single day. You know, we were all super close to each other, still are.
Yeah.
And every day, I mean, we were kind of forced to, like at SAGU, but we were studying the word. But not just that, like there was a genuine passion to pursue the Lord.
Yeah.
Within all of us.
Sure.
And like we each spurred each other on,
Yeah.
like so well in that. And I mean, on top of that, we lived together, like.
Yeah. We went out and ate, like we hung out all
Yeah,
the time. Like
ate together, lived together, like slept in the same room, you know. So, yeah, to me that was, I don't know, like I don't think I could think of a time where, I don't know, like you're spending life with other people like that, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's tempting to people on the outside looking in, or even like watching this, would be tempted to be like, oh, well, that's just your average fraternity. Like,
Yeah,
that's just
exactly.
I mean, that's just like your.
Which people called us that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. Like
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, that's totally understandable. But it's like way too easy of a cop out to just call it that and just like that's it. And I think that it's taken us years afterwards to really figure out like, what. Like, there were plenty of other halls of guys.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of other groups of guys that hung out and girls that hung out, like what, and they were close. Like what made Second Floor so special? Like why was there an energy about there that really like was almost like it was intangible, but people felt it.
Yeah.
And like they wanted to be a part. And then it's like, oh, you guys are like just cult or whatever. Like
Yeah.
And I understand that. But I think what we finally figured out was that it was maybe because it was so close to that like just immersive like big C church model.
Yeah.
That it kind of like, so for me, what it really did for me was probably the first time in my life I really felt like I could be myself without being judged in the slightest. Like I saw like guys around me just being, and just came through like silliness and goofiness and jokes and, you know, like how guys show love in that sense and messing around with each other. That really gave me the courage or just the acceptance of saying like, dude, you're a part of this. Like, come, we got to get a couch. Like, let's all go.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. Come on, let's go. And just being like welcomed as an opportunity. Some people were, and it wasn't their thing. They just chose not to hang out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
For sure.
But like for me, that is what I always wanted. In my high school, like growing up, I always wanted like even just like a bigger brother or something like that. But for me, like it gave me the opportunity to, it sounds cliche, but really find out who I was and like be my authentic self in a time where I was, you know, starting college in like a pretty immersive or new time of my life. And it gave me the opportunity to be around all you guys who like it was a support group. It was a support group for me.
Yeah.
It really was. Like to come back on the hall knowing that whatever happened during the day, and whatever was going to happen tomorrow, you were at least good. Like you were good for that time. Like
for sure.
You were good for that. And like that was really, really special.
Yeah, and not only that, but what always struck me was just how, and we've talked about this, how every single individual like within our group had a completely like unique personality compared to like not one person was like alike very much at all, but the way that like we all came together and like that wasn't a problem at all. Like I thought that was just always so cool to see to me. Like when I'm in a like I remember a lot of times just being in the room and there's in our little tiny dorm.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking around, there's 15 guys in there, crammed, and like everyone is so different. Everyone has such different personalities, but like everyone's laughing, having a good time. Like we're just singing songs or playing video games or whatever. Like it's just cool to see. Like you don't. To me, that's like that is church.
Yeah.
Just as much as being in like a church building. Or whatever. So
well, and I think when you were saying that, it made me realize that is a big difference compared to when you see something like, since we're talking about cults, when you see groups like that, you have this interesting thing happen where they all start to have attributes or develop attributes like their leader does. And that's part of the control is like, if you operate outside of those attributes that the leader has set, then you are now
you're like
ostracized. And so that's how that's an aspect of a lever of control that they use. And it, like when people call Second Floor a cult, it's kind of joking, like they're kind of just poking fun at us. And I think that when you said that, it just struck me that it's interesting that we all were able to be ourselves and that uniqueness showed
100%
versus like if we had one guy who was like, who carried the personality of the hall and we were all just like filing in like, oh, we love this guy, like let's be like him. That would be really weird.
It wasn't like that at all.
It wasn't like that at all, but it was like each person really was empowered to be themselves. And like that was so
it's
refreshing.
like their personalities were encouraged. It wasn't like, no one was ever put down for being who they wanted to be.
Yes, it was like each person could be more of themselves. And in turn, that made the group so much more fun because everyone else was like, oh, like Zach's being himself. I can be myself.
Exactly.
I can. And I saw people come in, like they'd peek their head in when they were maybe newer on the hall. And they would just see like what was, and they were just like, whoa. Like you could just see like, oh wow, like they're just dudes being guys. They're just being themselves. And some people would be like, jump in, and some people were just walking. It's fine. But they had the opportunity. I think that's the point we're trying to make.
But you're right. It was something about it, because you're right. From people looking from the outside, people, it's easy just to assume like, oh, well, I had a good group of friends when I was in college. And and I'm sure everyone has had like that. Like there are people who have had really awesome college experiences and like really good friends and everything that come out of that. And like, I don't want to pretend like we're special or anything, but I do think that like we all just kind of understood that there was something special about it. Like there was something special about just the atmosphere that we had created, kind of. And I think a lot of that kind of like we've talked about has to do with, our collective like pursuit of the Lord and the Holy Spirit, working within each one of us. But I think for the longest time, for people, who haven't heard what we're talking about yet or anything, like behind the scenes over the last like few months, well, I think for a long time we understood that about like, that something about that whole time was special and everything. But like, I think for a long time we really wrestled with like how to, one, just like let it go, like, like it to just, I don't know. Some people when they grow up, there's like this pressure or like expectation that you just kind of have to move on, and like the past is the past, like the good old days, and that's never like sat well with us. It's like, no. Like, why do I have to stop living? Like, why do I have to let my friends go? Why do I have to, like, let these things just, like, diminish? But so there's that, and then on top of that, I think for the longest time I don't know, just struggled to like identify and really conceptualize what that feeling was. And then also with that came like these frustrations with church and all that stuff. So these past few months, for people who, don't really know like what our thing is, what we're talking about, like that's what we've been doing. Like I feel like over the last few months we have really just freaking dug in and like really tried to identify and like materialize and I don't know, verbalize like what this whole thing that like we've been kind of wrestling with all these, I guess for years now, really. So, yeah.
And I think it's also maybe tempting to look at this and be like, oh, like they're just trying to like relive the glory days, or they're just trying like they just can't let go of that. And it's not that at all. It's I felt like I was like living for the semester and a half that we were all together before COVID hit. And I've never been able to find that again. Like I've never been able to tap into that exact feeling again. And I'm not trying to get back to the old, like that time. That time was amazing. And, we were all in one dorm. We were like, there were several things that were going on that helped us have that community.
Yeah.
And I think what we're really trying to do now is say, how can we take those elements that we had in that group and create a space where we can facilitate or model those specific like ingredients, let's say, and just see what happens, or like let the magic happen.
Like, is there a way to replicate it?
And not even just like replicate the exact thing, but just say, okay, can we just take the ingredients and see if we can make like a similar recipe, but we know it's going to have its own flavor, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's not going to be the exact same thing, and we're not trying to like resurrect like the old college days or whatever. But I just refuse to think that I have to just like live this boring adult life and have to like, oh, it's Monday again, like another day.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to live that way. I don't. And it's taken a lot of work for us to like work through these past few years. And life happens to each one of us individually, but for some reason we are all here. Like most of us are here, right? Like the people that are here, and we don't want to waste that time. And furthermore, we want to. I always wanted to do this on second floor. I had a dream of like making an Office, like The Office, the show, style video or like documentary about second floor. That was always a dream of mine. But I wanted so badly to like bottle what we had and be able to let someone else experience it because of the way I was able to come out of my shell. And that is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
It's for that person that has never experienced community or all the other layers we'll get into in this podcast.
Yeah.
But specifically, like to me, it starts there of just coming up to someone and just being curious about them and being intentional with them and letting them know that you genuinely care about them as a person, no matter what they bring to your life or whatever. Like they are a person, they're a soul, like to know that they can just be themselves.
Yeah.
I think it starts there. And I think we've demonstrated that just in our close friends, and we're trying to see, okay, is there anyone else out there that one is desiring that, and two, maybe feels like a little bit more niche, but like feels the same way we do about how we've been feeling in like the local church recently.
Yeah.
And so, but I think first and foremost, it is, can we put these ingredients in a space? And is a podcast good for that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I wouldn't even really say that, those times, like those good old days, whatever, like that feeling we had, I wouldn't like necessarily say that it's fallen off Like, I mean, yeah, it's not like every night like it was back then. Like, and we're not always together like we were back then. But I think I don't know what you want to call it, but even like a few months ago when we got all the guys together.
I knew you were gonna
up
say
in
that.
Waxahachie, like, you know,
Like
we all got together and it was like boom. It's like it's the exact same. Like it's that energy is still like there within all of us. Like it's not maybe the world and everything and just like life and growing up has made it a little more difficult to like spark that energy, but it's still there. And I think that is like that's where we're like, okay, how can we... Well, yeah, I was going to say, I think, like, that's important because it shows how, like, you know, even years later, I see Reed now maybe, like, once every 2 years? But when I see him, like, he's my bro. Like, and he is literally my brother. Yeah. And that's the power of, like, the energy we had and like the love we had for each other and the bond that we had with one another.
Yeah.
Like it goes beyond just a little like frat or like little, you know, cult or like fun college thing. Like it's relationships that you're building for years.
Yes.
Like forever. Yeah. So, and I think with what you're saying, like you're saying you think that, you know, hopefully we can bring this to people who are searching for that. And I think that there are a lot of people searching for that. I think there's a lot of people, especially within our generation, like people our age, who are just surrounded by so much fake stuff, like everything they see on media, fake news or, you know, social media, whatever. It's all just like, it's all a show. Everyone's just putting on like a show, or everyone wants to look happy. Everyone wants to look successful. And which all that like sounds cliche. It is cliche because everyone talks about it all the time.
Doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Like people are searching for genuine community to truly feel loved. Like people, I think our generation is, I mean, like we said before, is like truly starving for that.
And to your point, I think that I get frustrated with older people who throw out generalizations about my generation. And, you know, you could say, are we like super young millennials or super old Gen Zs? Like, doesn't matter. We're like still in that range. Yeah. That like, you know, what have you heard before? Like, you're not a hardworking generation. You're wasting your years.
Wasting your 20s.
You know, you're like, you can't hold down a job, like all these things. And I think that might be like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense. And of course, you're always going to have outliers. You're always going to have, and there are people in our generation that are like that, granted, for sure. And we've got a bad rap. We really have got a bad rap, to be fair. And what does that say to the people our age who are genuinely struggling and trying? Like, they want to be good. But they have this older generation that are saying, you're already not good enough. You're already missing the mark. Like, what chance do they have to crawl out of that pit? It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, or it's going to take a support network or like people around them that can say, no, you can do it. And this is how, like, these are the steps we're going to take. And what I'm trying to say is, I think that when I hear people complain about the state of our country, our generations, our children, insert whatever you want to insert there, I always look at their life. And I'm like, what are you doing right now that is helping in any way what you're saying? If there is, then I'm like, I listen to what they're saying. I put weight to their words because I know that they have skin in the game. And I think a burning desire that I've had is all these hours that we've put into having these conversations off camera about this is I've felt like, man, I want to do something. Like, I want to get in the arena. And granted, like, we've been doing this in our personal lives.
Yeah.
So you could argue
for
like
sure. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
And I also feel like this is our way of saying, okay, we're going to like put ourselves out there and, you know, maybe face like people making fun of us or like, you know, maybe some ridicule or whatever, like some hate, that's fine. And but like if we can provide that for somebody, if we can show that like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. If you're out there listening and you're dealing with something similar, know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And like the things, all the things that you just described, Zach, on Instagram and all the hype social media, like people are going through it. They're going through it. And just especially like in your 20s or coming up in your late teens, like you're trying to figure out life in a world that is changing so freaking fast.
Yeah.
That it would be nice to have a community or a place where you can just be like, hey, this is just who I am. Like, I want to be the successful person. I want to have a successful career, a business, marriage, life, family. But this is just where I'm at right now. I'm struggling with this. I can barely wake up on time. Like, how am I supposed to get to this dream, this desire I have, if I can't even get out of bed on time? Or if I just like waste my first hour of the day scrolling on social media and I feel like crap. Like, I desire to be better and I want to be better. Like what Paul says, like I want to do good so bad, but I don't.
Right.
And I think everyone struggles with that. And so it's just such a breath of fresh air, man, to listen to people who are just authentic but confident in their authenticity of saying like, this is where I am and I'm not complaining about it. I'm trying to get better.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's not just like, I'm down about this.
Right.
So like, I can't do that right now. Like making excuses or victimizing themselves. But it is a very specific state of mind. Where you're like, this is what I'm dealing with. And that's okay. And these are the steps I'm taking to get better.
Yeah. And not even that, just that, dude. Like, even on top of that, like, just a place where you can come and have a good time.
Just hang.
Just hang out. Like, have a good laugh.
Yeah.
Like, just be stupid.
Yeah.
Like, have dumb ideas and, like, just have fun. Like, that was something I think that was so huge about Second Floor at SAGU, is because very similar to where we are now, like, when you're in college, you have all these expectations, like, and we've talked about this, like, you gotta be at class on time, you gotta, like, all these papers you gotta write, like, you have to, like, your whole day is just, like, scheduled out.
Yeah.
You gotta get up early.
Probably have a job.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta make money somehow. All this stuff, all these pressures, and especially at SAGU, like, all these, chapel and all this stuff just adds up. And so then when you can come back to your hall and then, like, you're just with the guys and just, I don't know, all of a sudden we're in the TV lounge just, like, playing a stupid game that is probably pretty irrational, pretty, like, just dumb. We're probably doing something really stupid, but
fun dumb, like, not, I don't know, like, it's fun dumb. It's not like dangerous dumb. Yeah, we're not like
yeah.
We're like getting blacked out somehow.
No.
Like,
Yeah,
it's just dumb
I mean,
fun.
some of it was pretty dumb, but it was fun, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it lets you just, like, break away from all of those pressures and just, like, take a deep breath and smile and, like, and laugh and have a good time, and then also just, like, share your struggles, like, share what you're dealing with. Like, that is so huge. I think, I don't know, a lot of people just don't get that opportunity very often.
I had an idea, or I had a download. I just realized, like, well, what you're describing is kind of what happens if you've noticed, like, around a campfire late at night. People would be like telling jokes or stories, or there's like a game or something, and then like as the night wears on, there's this weird thing that happens where it's like people just start, like one person will share something,
They
like,
start unloading.
and then like someone else will just start unloading.
You're just like
too.
staring at the fire.
And I just,
like,
and I just thought of like a term for it called like the campfire effect. And that's like what it was for us in second floor. It was like we'd have this fun.
yeah.
That's like,
Dude, you're
that
right.
was like the formula.
That's what happened every single time.
We would have
Yeah.
this fun, like we could go sing, you play your guitar, we like play the game or
Yeah.
play video games or whatever. And then we'd get like a crazy idea and we'd go do it and be funny and silly. And then we all end up back in the room, and then you'd be like, you know, playing guitar real soft, or there'd be like music playing or something, just some chill. It was like more of a chill atmosphere.
Yeah,
We had done
yeah.
we had our fun for the night. We're sort of settling in.
Yeah.
And then someone would just, be like,
But then like a
you know,
serious
man,
question comes up,
I've
or
always wondered this, or my girlfriend's like this, I'm not sure. And then, dude, before you know it, 4 hours have gone by.
Yeah,
And
dude.
you've just like pondered the state of the universe and why we're here. But you come out
But
like,
dude, that was that was a weekly thing. Like
Yes.
that happened all the time. All the time.
specifically, especially for you, which like you put yourself, like you really were in it because like that was your part of your room.
Yeah.
Right? So like you
Yeah.
up a lot. Like that's a sacrifice, your sleep and stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the people that you were like with, and me too,
Yeah.
were like, that's how those connections
Yes,
got
dude.
deeper.
Yes. So many people are afraid to be in those moments. To like, or maybe not. Maybe a lot of people aren't afraid. I don't know. I just don't. It's hard to find that space in that time where you're allowed to just ask a question that's controversial, or like, or just open yourself up. Like, hey, dude, like, I'm not really doing too hot, like right in this area, you know, like,
I'm not
or
doing too hot.
yeah, like, you need that space and you need the time to be able to wrestle with it, like,
And someone not to judge you or shut you
yeah,
off.
yeah. I think that is one of the reasons why, like, I think that's why one of the reasons why Joe Rogan is so big right now, is because he's like one of the only podcasts, or I don't know, there's probably more now, but he was like the forefront of podcasts where, like, you know, a person can come in and just have like a 3-hour conversation with no like interruptions, or like, I gotta ask this question, ask this question.
No
It's
agenda.
like, no agenda. Yeah, it's just like people can just sit down and talk and just get everything out. Like, and there's no like guidelines or whatever. It's just free. And I think that's why he's had so much success, is because people are looking for that. Like, people want that space to be able to just,
Dude, they do.
yeah.
Especially in a world right now where like anywhere you go, if you're someone of influence and you're going on like a podcast, where especially like a news network or something, like,
Yeah.
you're constantly getting back-ended questions, and you're having to be aware
Yes.
of like, how are they going to try to spin this? What are they going to try to make me look like?
Yeah,
Or you may get clipped. You can get like one sentence gets clipped out of context, you're done. Like, that's
Yeah.
the culture we've created, sadly.
Yeah.
And his is one of the only spaces where you can go on, and he is just genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it sounds like we're
really.
like worshiping Joe Rogan. We're not like worshiping Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
but he's just an example.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of interviews, you hear people will ask a question, and then like the other person will answer, and there's no like, oh, that's interesting. Well, like, what about this and that, whatever. It's like straight to the next question. You know, there's no just. It's not like a real interaction. You know, like, I don't know. Yeah. I think that I think that what really showed me, like, when I realized, like, okay, we really have something special here, was when we did the second floor experience.
Really?
I think so, like, oh, okay, I mean, I knew
Yeah,
I knew they had something special,
For sure.
but
That was a big moment for you?
it was, because
Big one.
to me it showed, like, people really do, like, people really are looking for this. Like,
or at least interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it drew people in that whatever we had.
We were booked up.
Yeah, we were booked up.
We'll tell that story sometime.
Yeah,
we'll tell that
we
story.
will. Yeah.
We got stories to go around.
We have too many stories.
But that was like a, like, can you go into that a little bit more? Like, was there like a moment?
Because I remember it was shocking to me how many people wanted to sign up. Like, as stupid as it was.
Yeah.
This thing they did was, it was so stupid.
Yeah. You want to just like give a brief outline, just so people.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. So
It's like
basically,
we'll take people through rooms.
Yeah. It was basically, you can almost kind of compare it to like a kind of like a haunted house trail where you're like, guided by a tour and there's like different rooms. And we did that for our hall in our senior year. And we had a night where, but I can't.
Open dorms.
Yeah, it was open dorms, but like, how much time do we have to like tell people about it? I guess it was a while because we tried to do it this semester before, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But even then, that night, we had a lot of signups.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So that was shocking to me because I was like, wow. 'Cause for people that don't know, we obviously had a pretty big reputation on the floor. I remember literally talking to people and just being like, like introducing myself to them, and they would ask me, just like getting to know me, and they'd be like, "What hall are you on?" Or like, "Where do you live?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Bridges." And like, "What hall?" Like, second floor. And they're just like, okay. Like, they knew. Like, we were. Honestly, we ran that school. Like, legit. We freaking ran that school. But yeah, so it was funny that like the whole thing was just like our hall was just like a school joke.
Yeah.
But it was shocking to me how many people actually wanted to come and see it.
True.
Right? Like, it wasn't just a joke because people were obviously interested in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree. And it was really cool to me to see. It's just like, it was really cool for me to see like all the guys coming together and like buying in on something like that was actually organized. Because typically a lot of what ours was organized chaos.
Yes.
In a sense of like, it really was no plan, but we were all doing something.
Yeah.
But this was like very strategic, very laid out.
You're right.
Scheduled, right, put together, and like we were exhausted at the end. We put like so much effort into it.
I remember being toasted.
Exhausted.
Oh my gosh.
But like, it was so cool to see that everyone bought in. It was like, oh, I do want to show. Like, really what it was like. And in each time we would go to each room, I was watching going like, wow, that's like spot on.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
That's exactly
everybody was
what
into
happens.
it. Everybody was into it.
And people would be like, but like, what do y'all really do? And I'm like, you just saw.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, and it was like they were looking for something, I don't know, like more special, or they had like their own maybe ideas of what it was. But I think that like, we could say like that truth of like being yourself and like being empowered in who you are is like hidden in plain sight.
Right.
Of like going and seeing like Ryan like yelling at the top of his lungs at a Bachelor pick on the show. And like, you would miss that as saying like, oh, he's just a stupid like boy or whatever. Like, you'd miss that truth of he's just really being who he's just loud.
Right.
And like, he's passionate. Right? You would miss that.
Right, yeah.
He's just looking at it and you're writing it off. And I think like what we want to do on this podcast is create a space for people to be interviewed, come in, friends or whatever at first for sure, but like other people, and just give them a space to be like, who are you really? And like, what do you really want to do? And not have that agenda behind it, but to be genuinely curious and I don't know, see how people react.
Yeah.
Because that was what was so powerful and is what has, I think, kept us together. Is that you know me for who I really am, and I know you for who you really are. And because of that, I want to hang out with you and the rest of our friends because I can be I can be myself to you guys.
Yeah.
I don't have to like hide apart or masquerade. I don't want to bring up this. I don't want to bring up and I think we all have that in different parts of our life where like we don't want to offend someone, or we don't want to make them feel bad, or we don't maybe we don't feel like we can relate, or we're not good enough, or we're not old enough or smart enough or wise enough or whatever enough yet in order to like contribute to the conversation or relationship. But I think the truth is everyone feels that way on some level, unless you're like a narcissistic psychopath.
Right.
And people like desire that genuine connection.
Yeah.
And that's the space that I want to provide for people. And so like the long-term, we should probably talk about the long-term vision and goal is to have like a physical space where like one story, it's like a commercial space for a coffee shop, or like the first story is a coffee shop, but there's an actual like physical second floor where we'll have like our podcast studio, and we'll like have a space to like have our guests hang out and chill, whatever, but like the bottom is open to the public, and we have some really fun ideas on what we could do with that. But basically, it is definitely more of a challenge to take what we had on second floor and create like quote unquote adult version, or like something in I hate the term the real world, but I really do. I hate that term.
Yeah.
But like quote unquote the real world of society or whatever.
Yeah.
Where we can have that space.
Yeah, I think it's difficult taking something that everyone says is supposed to just die off and like, but extending it, and not even just extending it, but like making it bigger than it ever was.
Yeah.
I think that's how I feel.
Me too.
That's how I think about it.
Me too.
Like I feel like we're taking what we had on second floor at SAGU and just we're making it bigger than it ever was. Like not just for us,
not
but
just
sharing it with the world, pretty much. Yeah. Believers and unbelievers.
Yeah.
Like people that
that we disagree with, people that
exactly
disagree with us.
Exactly.
Anyone.
Yeah. Different religions, different cultures.
Yeah.
Different backgrounds, different ages, like whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that a big part of this as well is the culture we had on second floor was one where we would really and truly test one another's like opinions or beliefs and there was a scale. Like there was a level of seriousness, and there was a level of like it could be the dumbest conversation, but you were like critically testing that theory.
Yeah.
Like it could be really like, do you think that you could really eat like a caniac combo or like 2 caniac combos in one sitting? And you'd be like, there's no way that you could actually do that. The person would be like, no, I really can't. I've done it before. And just like, it could be something as dumb as that or as serious as like, is God real? Like, how do we know?
Yeah.
Are we sure? Yeah. And I want that to be a core pillar of this where in a society where it's not okay to disagree, it's implied that it's not okay to disagree with other people, or even to be friendly with people that you disagree with, to have a place where you can be a Muslim or you can be gay or you can be these different things, and we're not going to sit here and like berate you or like it's just a place where like you have your own set of beliefs and we can challenge each other and to try to grow one another in that. And that, I think here's the biggest thing, is that there's not going to be this undercurrent of judgment or like spite or whatever, where it's like you can genuinely be accepted for like what your beliefs are, for who you are, and be tested at the same time, like, and develop critical thinking skills at the same time.
Yeah.
To test, like, maybe there are things that you believe in that don't line up. Like, we believe that truth does exist. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, how are we going to do that? It's by a healthy, like, debate is kind of a strong word, but just a healthy back and forth. is really important. It's something that we did a lot, I feel like, and because there was that level set of, I care about you, like I love you as a brother for who you are.
Yeah.
You could then go, okay, now I can really test you or go back and forth with you because I know that I'm not going to actually hurt our relationship.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's another big like tenet or goal or pillar of ours is and we're still working on putting all this into words. Like the whole point of us just starting right now is to just take massive imperfect action. Like not have a nice camera, not have like super nice microphones or a setup or whatever, but like just to do what we can with what we have.
Yeah, even still figure out
And just
what
to-
the heck we're talking about.
Exactly. And
yeah.
in that sense, it's still okay to be figuring out who you are or what you do, like to make that sort of correlation. But what I'm trying to put into words is you can be in total community in relationship with someone you completely disagree with.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah.
And in
for
fact,
sure.
I'd argue that's healthy because if you put yourself in a bubble where everyone else believes the same thing you do, then you're never challenged.
Yeah, that's
Your
dangerous.
beliefs it's so dangerous. And that's a gift that I learned at SAGU. That's a gift that I got was like, holy crap, I got to really know why I believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And if something is not lining up, I need to be humble enough
Yes.
to say, okay, like I'm open to something being wrong or something
Right.
being not totally right. And my hope is that as people grow in our community, in this community, that they are willing to see that side or another side or a different side.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. Do you think that I'm just not thinking of this. Like, do you think to have those hard conversations, do you think that, or like those hard questions, and to be able to, I guess, interact with one another like that, do you think that the relationship is, like, that relationship needs to be established first? Do you think that's like, do you think that's like a core reason why that works so well with us within our group?
I think it really helps. I wouldn't go as far to say it's a hard rule. I wouldn't say that you have to have it to have a healthy debate, but I think it takes like two really special people to be like, I don't know you, but I can debate with you.
Yeah.
Or I can go back and forth with you, or I can challenge your beliefs. I think it makes it a lot easier
I agree.
for me to accept someone's criticism or constructive criticism or challenge if I know that they're not just challenging me to try to look better than me or to try to best me or be smarter than me, because that activates my ego, my defense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to listen to a person like that, but if they've sat across from me and they've listened to me spill my whole worldview for like an hour,
Yeah.
even just an hour, they have like relational equity.
Yeah, they've invested in you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They literally, they've put money in my relational bank,
Right.
and so now they can make withdrawal, and I will listen to what they're
Right.
saying because they've listened to me, and I mean I may not take it as seriously as someone who I've spent 50 hours with, but I would take it more seriously than if they just came up to me off the street.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like a sliding scale.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. Because I'm just thinking of, like, for the future, when we have guests on, and potentially guests that, maybe we have never had a conversation before ever.
True.
And thinking of, like, how that's going to be when talking about things like this.
True. Well, I think asking, okay, you bring up another good point. I think a subcategory of this pillar of critical thinking and healthy debate, healthy back and forth, is calculated questions.
Yeah.
Or empathetic questions. Ones where you're like genuinely trying to understand
Yeah.
their belief. That's like
Yes. I think
little
that's. I think
pennies
that would be the
in-
key,
yeah.
especially for us, because when we bring, I feel like a lot of times when guests go on shows or whatever, people are asking the questions with their own like angle to try and like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a back-ended question. They have an
Yeah.
agenda within their question.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want
Where-
to catch you or trap you or
Yes.
see, what you're saying, and that causes people to be very guarded. Like,
Yeah.
be very careful what I say.
Yeah, I think that would be the difference, especially for like to bring someone up, for example, like I don't know, a Muslim, and to ask them a question. It was like that guy I told you about.
Yeah.
At my lunch break.
Yeah.
Where he was a Muslim, and I found out that day that he was Muslim, and like he asked me if I was Christian. I was like yeah, and we were just kind of talking, going back and forth. And he just like went on and on like about his faith, and like almost like he was arguing for his faith, like just off the bat. And I was just kind of like, oh, like that's interesting. Like what about this? Like it was like he was expecting a rebuttal, like I had to try to win him over, like right there, or there was just already like there's going to be this tension, but.
You just disarmed.
I think it threw him off that it was like, oh wait, he really actually just wants to like understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like there's no like hostility or offense being made. It's just I actually want to understand like who you are and what you believe and why you believe it. And that's it. Like,
imagine
that's it.
that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
To just want to understand someone for who they are.
Yeah.
And not even like for the purpose of, okay, ding, I know who you are. Now let me dismantle your worldview.
Yeah.
No. That's like you've lost. You've lost
Yes.
the relational. You have just what's the term where like your account goes below zero?
Oh.
It's not a withdrawal, but it's. I always hate this when I'm listening to podcasts and they can't think of the word.
I know.
'Cause, like,
what is that word?
it'll come to us.
It'll come.
Yeah. So I'm like screaming at the camera in my car, like, it's this. It's this.
Yeah.
They can't hear me.
That is gonna bother me.
Yeah. It'll come to us.
But I know what you're saying.
You're in the negative. How about that?
Yeah.
Gosh.
You were saying.
It just destroys your relation. It destroys any. Like if your goal is to try, if your goal is for them to see any bit of your worldview, why in the world would you raise their defenses by asking hostile questions or not having a relationship? Like it's just going to be this butting heads over and over, and it's only when the person feels like they're not going to be like gotcha'd that they will actually consider like, oh, well, maybe he does think, or maybe the way he does view the world is not so crazy, and it's not even an admission of your own belief being wrong. I think that's what people think, is that if I say that someone who believes in Islam, does a good job of fearing God, that I am somehow like blaspheming my own religion.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, no, they do a really good job of that, and we don't do the best job of that. And or people will go so far as to, you have the other end of the spectrum where people will just be like, well, I don't want to get into this, but they'll just be like, oh, it's all true, or there's everything's subjective.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to go there either. And people never really are able to hold that tension between the balance of that. And I think that's what we're good at. And that's what we like to do. I like to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we can exemplify when we have guests on.
Yeah, I think so too. I always try to think of it as, I think that everyone genuinely, like deep down, is looking for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm
Good point.
like when I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, I try to come, like if I'm, in like a debate or like a discussion and like we have like differing views, I just try to see it as like, I try to come at them or to them as like an ally in the pursuit of truth. Like we're both just trying to find the answer.
Okay.
Like I don't have to battle you. Like let's just both figure it out together.
Yeah.
Like I think that's it. Like, and so if like they say something that I disagree with, it's not, I'm not offended by it.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, that's just what you think. So let's just see if that lines up together.
That's so funny you say that. And that's a great perspective. It just reminds me of marriage. Whereas like in marriage, or when you're looking for someone to be married, to get married to, you're kind of looking for someone who's pursuing a similar track of life that you are. And you're like, well, we're going to it seems like we're going to the same place at the same pace. Like, why don't we just do this together?
Yeah.
And you get married.
Yeah.
And so it's like, or even maybe within marriage, you could also say, maybe a lot of fights happen, when you're trying to make the other person look at the way you're seeing a certain situation versus like, okay, we're a team. How can we approach this as a team?
Right.
Not as like, I got to get my way. You got to. That's just kind of what came to my head when you said that. But that's a great perspective for us to like when you're talking with someone who has a completely different worldview than you, to say or to take the perspective of like, you want to find truth. I want to find truth. Let's do it. Let's do this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it kind of, it puts this like bigger goal in mind rather than just trying to like prove your point or something. I don't know.
You do know.
Yeah. I'm still trying to think of that word, man. Oh, it's killing me.
Really?
Yeah.
It's right on the tip of my brain.
I know.
Overdrawn.
Yeah. Let's
go. Overdrawn.
That's it.
Account's been overdrawn. Let's go. That is so satisfying. There's definitely like, if anyone listens to this, they're gonna be like, that was killing me for about 10 minutes until you guys figured it out. You're welcome. We made it.
That was for you. So what now?
I think
like there's a lot. There's a lot more we could talk about. There is
That's a good launch pad.
Yes.
It's a good launch pad.
There's a lot like in the back of my mind right now that
There's a little string that you're just like ready to tug. And it's just gonna unravel.
I'm like ready to go into it, but I mean that's a good 4 or 5 podcasts all together. So
yeah, I think that's a good foundation for people who, maybe will listen to a future episode, or maybe they'll listen to this one. Or I don't know, but like if they hop on, after a few episodes and they're like, what even is? Where does this come from? What is this?
Yeah.
I felt like this would be a really good foundation to lay.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Okay, they can come back to the first episode and be like, okay, what is this and why?
Yeah,
why are we doing this? So
I agree.
You don't want to overload them. We just want to give them a little taste.
Yeah,
a little nugget.
This is just a start.
But I do want to say, if you're listening and you have questions or that you want us to talk about or you want to be on the podcast, send an email to Second Floor Experience, 2ND, Floor Experience, no spaces, all lowercase, .com. I'll probably have it in the bio of this episode, and probably all episodes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And tell us who you are, what you're about, and why you want to be on the podcast. And you never know, you may be on here. Or if you have a question, send it in. We love to hear your feedback. If you disagree with us, tell us why you disagree.
Yeah.
If you think we're full of baloney, tell us why.
Or if you just want to say something stupid, just say it. We don't care.
Say it.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. Speaking that into existence.
Yeah.
All right.